Okay.
And we're going to go live. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Detroit City of Champions, the podcast is floating on a cloud.
Love
man.
that intro, Jamie. I love the intro, man.
It is
super cool. It's so cool.
It's just fun, just floating on a cloud this week. Coming off a good high, had fun with Drew Miller last week.
It was a great show. We had fun last night.
And threw a bunch of love on Facebook. That was like it was cool that he.
He was cool, man. I really like him.
It was so that was fun. But we were talking about Potsy Clark and the Lions, and then the how that December 15th date and just all these things came together
that one day,
and just the fans going crazy and sharing all that with Drew. That was fun. But the Lions, I mean, there's a lot to the Lions.
Here's the thing. This is what's so interesting.
Yeah.
Is like where we're at with this showings right now. What is this, episode 16? Right?
Yep.
And so we mentioned it before the episode with Drew, and I said it. One of the things that kicked off that show was that the Lions were the most the most underreported team of the entire year.
Yeah,
and they were really they were as important as everybody else, of course, but they were like the fulcrum. They were the team that. The Tiger, Joe Louis does his thing, which I can't wait to get into Joe Louis at some point. Joe Louis is a guy. It's going to be great.
I'm excited for that.
The Joe Louis,
that part, yes,
we did a lot with that Joe Louis Bourbon podcast, and this is, this is going to be like an actual emphasis on that 1935, which is going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so the Joe Louis does his thing. The Tigers, win the championship. Like spoiler alert, Tigers win the World Series. But then, and then the Lions, they come into the city and the Lions do their thing. They win their championship, and it was, as we mentioned, like on the day they win their championship, the Red Wings go into first place. And so all of a sudden the focus becomes, well, now Detroit could win all three championships. And so the entire story changed from just being like a Tiger World Series to being like, Detroit can, change can do something that like no city's ever done. This incredible series of achievements.
But these Iron Men
and the Lions get left out because the city moved on without the Lions. They've done their thing.
The anticipatory.
Great, they won. Now let's talk about the Red Wings.
Yeah,
that's how it was. And so, but that's what's kind of ironic is here. Fast forward, what is it? 85 years later. How many years has it been? Since 1935. I mean, that many. But here we are in the future, in the modern day, and it's kind of like I feel like. Like we already started getting into the Red Wings a little bit, and I feel like, it's kind of the stage is set to move on to the Red Wings right now. But at the same time, I want to do a reversal. I want to go back to the Lions. You know what I'm saying? Like we started getting into the Red Wings, but there's so much more to talk about with the Lions.
You know what?
And so I want to do what they didn't do in 35, which is, go back and say, hold on a second, put on the brakes. We want to go back and talk about the Lions.
We're going to get this right this time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You have an infinite number of episodes to go. There's so much
you have
so much to unpack.
Time.
You have a lot of time. So take your time and let's dig in.
You nailed it, man. That's what I was saying. Like I didn't want to move past the Lions too. It was such a great opportunity to have Drew on the show. So that's what I mean. It was
fun.
And so, but I would like to say I want to kind of put it in reverse a little bit and go.
Well, he was available, so
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Got to get while they're getting good, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, it was great. We got to because we actually left off the previous show talking about the transition from that Lions into the Red Wings, and so he was was a great episode to have him. But I do, like I say, I want to go back and go into this because, especially since I'm hoping to get a friend of mine on for the next couple shows. His name is Tom Urich, and Tom Urich has got some incredible stories to tell. And I kind of want to talk about some stuff today to kind of tee him up for when he comes on. I'm hoping we can maybe do 2 episodes with him at least.
Yeah, sure.
He has got some tremendous stories.
I like having friends, and that's the thing about the podcast. And when Matt and I do our other podcast, the Man Cave Happy Hour, and we let's take a second right now before we go too much farther and say thanks everybody for listening to this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed as of yet, Subscribe. Subscribe and leave a comment.
Comments really help. And
they do.
Comments, they really help us move up the list. And plus, if you comment during the show, we try to give you a little shout out.
That's it. Yeah. And then, if you like this one, if you like the sound of my voice, and who doesn't really?
No, I can't imagine who. They'd be fucking crazy.
There's the Man Cave Happy Hour as well that Matt and I do. But the thing is that it's all about the stories, right? And there's so many stories.
Yeah.
And you are so connected in the research that you did for this book. You met so many interesting people, and there were so many people that helped you and supported you as you went through it. I would love to get their stories too.
There's a lot of great stories. Like there's stories I've got that are like off of the City of Champions trail, of making the story happen, of like putting it together. Like, people that just, I went through like a 5-6 year stretch where it was basically like I was making a living as a traveling storyteller.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way I could equate to. I mean, there was one summer where I slept in, I bathed in every Great Lake surrounding the state of Michigan in the same summer. Like it wasn't bathing, like it wasn't camping and going swimming because I was out for the pleasure cruise of it. It was because I was like on the road and it was cheap to sleep out, in a tent
living
or whatever,
and living in a river.
Exactly. And bathing in a Great Lake when, it's like, that's what I'm saying. It was
sounds really romantic till you realize that you were just kind of broke living in a van down by the river.
I'm trying to say, like, it was a utilitarian experience, where it was like, the camping was like, I'd seen people camping or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, what you doing here?" I'm like, selling books, telling stories." There was one guy. It was great. Just a quick shout out with this thing is, I was in Charlevoix, and I was sleeping in my art tent in this really just beautiful marina
down by the river,
down by the lake, the river, lake, something like this. But I was sleeping in my art tent because it's just easy because I can drop the tent and sleep and guard my books, And so, anyways, there was a security guard. I'd come out of my tent for something or other. And some random person walking through this marina spotted me because you're not supposed to sleep in the marina, on the grass. And so, anyways, a random person spotted me.
I believe there's a hobo.
Basically. So, anyways, I knew that they spotted me. I made eye contact with them, and they kind of gave me this look like, "What's this guy doing? Like, in this tent or whatever, at like 10 o'clock at night." So, anyways, so I knew they were like basically going to tell on me to somebody or whatever. So anyways, out of nowhere, so sure enough, a security guard came walking up, came up to me a few minutes later, and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Man, I'm sleeping in my tent." And he's like, "Why?" I go, "Because I can't afford to get a hotel room,
Yeah.
And he's like, he all of a sudden his whole demeanor changes. He goes, "Man, I've been there. Man, I've been there." And he was like, he goes, "You know what I'm going to do for you?" He goes, I'm going to get you. He goes, "I'm going to get you the code for the marina showers." He goes, because he was like, "How are you going to shower in the morning?" I go, "I was just going to jump in the lake."
water.
And he goes,
No,
man. He goes, "I got the code for the showers."
Not
He's
in
like,
the
"You can
harbor.
go use the showers." I was like, "Dude, I was like, man, you have been there because this is like it's those small things which are such a pleasure. You're like a hot shower instead of a cold dip in the lake is at that moment it's such a it means something, And so, anyways, he also gave me a tip. He also gave me the tip, and the tip was the greatest. This is one of the greatest tips. That's
I thought that was going a different direction.
All right,
knock on that thing. No, he gave me a future tip for down the road for myself, and I'll share the tip now. He said, you can also, if you ever find yourself in a pinch, if you're sleeping in a parking lot somewhere, a lot of people check out early out of their hotels. So like you can go in and shower in somebody's room once they look for a door that's open and then go take a shower in a hotel room that's waiting to be, cleaned out by the maid.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I'm like, "Oh, thanks for the tip, bro." And then I was like, I'm not going to do that level, hopefully ever, but I'm like,
that's a little sketch.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, well, I don't want to get to that point. You know what I mean? I'd probably prefer to just, bathe in the lake if it got to that point,
right?
But it was just funny because he was like, man, he switched from being like an enforcer, like a law enforcement, to being like, "Bro, I've been there, man. I totally understand. Here's the code." Got a million stories like that from the road, and it's like, we can dive into all kinds of different stuff.
And that's the thing. I hope you bring in some of your friends, the people that supported you along that journey.
Yeah.
As you created these 3 books, Detroit, the City of Champions.
Yeah, and this is a good one too.
Players.
He is a die. He is. I tell you what, if there's anybody that's more bitten by the City of Champions bug than myself, it would probably be this guy. His name is Tom Urich. It's I'm looking forward to bring. I talked to him today. I'm hoping that they'll come in. So
all right.
So what do we got? What are we doing today?
The Iron Men, the Lions, the Iron Men of the Lions. Man, you sent me this cool picture of the first picture. They took it at Cranbrook.
Yep.
I live right over there.
Yeah.
I live in the snotty part of town.
Nice.
I live on the Troy side of the snotty part of town. We live in the expensive school district, but in the snotty part of town. Right.
So
there.
Cranbrook is this beautiful art university. If I'm not mistaken, art university, and it's just if anybody that hasn't been to Cranbrook, I mean, it's they actually you can actually like pay for admission and stuff, I think, to go in.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure.
Place,
yeah, you can tour the place, and it's just like the coolest place. It's like all these like marble architectural sculptures, the entire building.
There's great. There's a small community theater.
Yeah,
there's
really cool.
There's an ice rink.
Yeah.
They rent it out to the public, and then like some of the schools play. My boy played high school hockey, and they played a bunch of their games there, and some of their summer league stuff happened there. So
so it's cool. It's a university too. It's a college, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a small college or a high school.
It's a high school,
because they have dorms and stuff like this.
It's a high school,
and so that's where the Lions, when they first came to, or that's when the Portsmouth Spartans were relocated from Portsmouth, Ohio, to Detroit.
Right.
That was their first training ground, was Cranbrook, and so they stayed in the dorms. They used their outdoor fields for training around training grounds. And so that's the photo that we have up on screen now.
So we talk about pictures and videos throughout this episode. There might be a couple of times if you're listening to the audio podcast, you always want to go if it's something that's like video or visual heavy. You can find us on Facebook or YouTube and see the other things we were talking about as we had these visual representations of. It was kind of a cool picture. So they stayed at Cranbrook when they first got here and started training.
Yeah, exactly. So they came to. So they're basically the Lions when they first got here. Were they're like isn't there some kind of like a sea creature that goes from one shell to another get to a larger shell or something? It's kind of like that. Like they came to Detroit, and they they didn't, like nowadays, like if a team comes to a city, they've got like multi-million-dollar workout facilities, they get a new stadium, they got all this stuff. Well, when the Lions came to Detroit in 1934, they didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
They had, they were just, but they were the team. They were the same players from Portsmouth. And so the first step is find a place to train, find a place to our like sort of headquarters. And Cranbrook was such an ideal spot.
Sure.
And so it was, fairly close to Detroit, and they, and so that's where they ended up training at. So, dorms and, training there and stuff. And then their first field was University Detroit, University Detroit Stadium. And so they used a college football field as their first home. And so, like they didn't have their own stadium.
Right.
And I was actually talking to Tom Urich today, and he reminded me of something, which was that they initially, of course, the first, it was back then, a lot of times a football team would play in a baseball stadium.
Yes.
And so they approached the Tigers, and the Tigers were like, and this was Tom telling me this. He kind of refreshed my memory about something I'd read before. But Tom was saying, he's like, the Tigers were like, no chance.
Really?
Well, yeah, because the Tigers are in the midst of the 1934 pennant where they're drawing
and you don't want
30,000 fans a game.
Yeah. And you don't want the, extra lines and
tearing
it
up the
front.
Field, and and the Lions were like a third. They're like hardly anybody. They're like, who's the Lions? What's that mean? Some NFL team. Like, what's the NFL?
NFL, yeah.
They were like second or third class sporting citizens in this case, and so the Tigers were like, no, we're good. We got 30,000 fans a game coming here.
Yeah.
We don't need the extra $50 a game for revenue from you guys, So we're
good.
We're fine. Thanks.
Good.
So maybe down the road sometime. Yeah. So they played at University Detroit Stadium, but in Cranbrook is where they trained at and stuff. And so title the episode Iron Men, because talk about it from a few episodes ago. This Portsmouth Spartan team had, this is a team that stretched all the way back to 1931. And Potsy had this massive radical makeover of the team when he first became the coach of the Portsmouth Spartans. He gets rid of all these players, brings in 19 new guys.
Yeah.
All these new players. And as we mentioned the other, I think it was, I forgot, I got to look back at my notes, but I think it was 11 guys that came with him from Detroit from that original group. And it was like, I think it was 9, and then 5 of them ended up being with them in 35 when they won the championship. So it's like, this is a core group of guys that have stuck together and played together for years. They go all the way back to 1931. And so one of the games that we've mentioned too was the 1932 the Iron Man game.
Oh,
where remember where the 11 players with 11 guys, they all played all 4 quarters of the game, and they beat the Packers the day after the Packers had beaten, not the week after the Packers had beaten them.
Yeah.
And so they called that from then on, they were called the Iron Men.
We're doing it. We're doing it with 11 guys.
With 11 guys. All 11 guys played both ways the entire game. That's incredible.
Yeah, Mike Frazier popped in and said, "Go Lions."
Hey, all right, Mike. Dude, we're international. Mike Frazier's watching from Scotland, man.
There it is.
Scotland. Yeah, so we'll give a shout out to Scotland, one of my favorite places in the world. I love it.
He said, shout out to the Hibs. Shout out from the Hibs.
That's his football team.
For the Hibs.
Team. Yeah. He wants to shout out for the Hibs, the Hibernian. That's I'll give a shout out for the Hibs. We always like the Hibs, Mike. Yeah.
The ancient order of Hibernians.
Yeah, the Hibs. Yeah, they're cool. That's my team. I went to a Hibs game out there with them. It was fun. But anyways, they so this is a team that they've been playing together for years. They knew each other. I mean, they knew everything, and they were all on the same mission. They'd gotten so close. Yeah, they're all so close. In 31, they got, we talked about how they got kind of jobbed by the Packers, but the Packers refused to play them in the final game because there wasn't like a contract signed.
Yeah.
So the Packers won the championship just by virtue of having the best record and not having played the Spartans.
Brats.
Yeah, and so the Spartans finished second that year.
Yeah.
And then in 32, of course, they go to the Chicago Stadium and play the first NFL championship game with the Bears. And then the Bears beat them.
The Bears.
Yeah. So the Bears beat them in that 32 championship. So they got close in that case again. And in 33, they lost their best player, Dutch Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And so they play the entire, so they still finish in second place, even without their best player, Dutch Clark. And then they show up in Detroit in 34 for their first, to become the Detroit Lions. And in their first season, they go 10-0. They don't lose a game for 10. They win 10 straight games in their first season in Detroit. And then they don't give up a single point for 7 straight games. Still this day, a record. It's still this day. And so, anyways, they and so they do all these things. And then, of course, at the end of 1934, they lose at the end of the season to the Bears and Packers, and they finish in second place again. So this is a team that year after year after year, they're getting close, but not. They just can't finish.
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah. Well, you win every time. Is
what?
Yeah.
How to finish it off or how to win a game?
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah. Which one?
It's Lions letting you down.
Okay. All right.
We can go there, but let's wait.
There hasn't been enough bourbon down yet. That's why we're talking about 1935.
Exactly.
We're looking for the silver linings, baby.
Yeah. This is ultimate silver linings. We're reaching back in time for the silver linings for this one. So this is a team, this core group of players. Potsy Clark's their leader, the coach that had brought them on, and they're on this mission to win a championship. Whether they didn't work out in Portsmouth, but now here they are in Detroit with new uniforms, and they're still on that same quest. And so today, I think one of the things I wanted to do is show a couple videos. Yeah, I know that we're with the pod, it's not going to help people on the podcast, but at the same time, we can embed the links or the link to the two, because there's like on the
we can put those down and absolutely.
Yeah, and I can
even
mention
being all smart.
I've got a hidden reserve of computer tech knowledge.
I can put those in the show notes so the people listening to the audio podcast. If you want to see this vintage footage, you can either find us on YouTube or Facebook and find the video there as we went through it, or just go straight to the second
video
link.
The second video comes from a much longer chunk. It's a 27-minute video. We don't want to do all that. So I chopped it down into a few pieces. And once again, displaying a rudimentary tech skill, because you can actually kind of see if you're watching it. There's like you can see the splits where I mashed it. But all
right, which one do you want to see? We got the 34 championship and the one you edited.
Okay, so both videos come from the same YouTuber. His name his handle on YouTube is JSTube36.
All right.
So we want to hopefully we'll send traffic to that guy's to his thing, because these are really cool videos. And the first one we're showing it's from November 26th, this is from what is it? Hold on a second. What's the date here? What do we have the date on that thing? Is the 1930? It's from 1930.
The 34.
No, it is. You know what it is? It's the 1934 NFL championship.
The 34 championship.
Yeah. 1934 NFL championship, and this is between the Bears and the Giants. And the reason I want to show this is because these are two elite teams that the Lions would have to face, and most particularly, And by the way, the Giants, a spoiler alert, I guess, the Giants would beat the Bears in this game. And this is the same Bears team that beat the Lions in 1934 to basically knock them out. But what I want to highlight in this video as we watch it, it's only a minute and a half long, is just watch the awesome power of Bronko Nagurski. This is a man amongst boys.
Right.
And the reason I want to show Bronko Nagurski is because this is what the Lions had to overcome. And I also want, also pay attention to just the overall, the sort of the difference between the two teams. You're going to see the Giants that have like sort of an aerial attack, and the Bears are just pure power. There's not a bunch of trickery. They don't try to do too much stuff. They just literally get the ball to Bronko Nagurski and let him maul people. That's all. That's their style.
This was supposed to work here. And,
oh man, after that hype, Jamie just blew it.
all right, we'll get it. We got it.
There it is. Now you got something.
There we go. Jamie just got saved by that.
I saw a play button.
Major fail. I saw a play button.
It was playing. No, it was playing on my machine. It's just not. We got the big black square up on the screen there, and then where are we at? StreamYard.
You know what this is called, Charles? This is called the best rehorsal ever. That's what this is called. Yes.
Well, we got to redo the show.
There it is.
There we go. Okay. So take a look at this. So you want to drop that arrow off the screen there, James? Is that
no?
It's kind of distracting.
There you go. That was me.
There you go. All right. So the Bears are in the darker uniforms. You can see right there, they threw a pass and got picked. There's the Giants returning it.
Yeah.
That was like
I love the uniform. These uniforms are dark, black on black.
The Giants were known for their aerial assault. They're always the Packers and the Giants were both really big passing teams. But there's Bronko right there. Look at him. Look at this guy. Bam.
Oh, geez.
Big.
Wow.
He's like
big.
He takes like 3 guys to bring him down. Look at him. Look at him coming around the other side. Look at the size of this man.
Make the corner.
He's like,
look at the first guy that tries to bring it. Bam. You cannot tackle this man. He just mauls his way right through the pile.
Well, that's how they used to tackle. They just run into each other back.
Well,
it was really another attack.
Well, they could wrap up if they had to. But I mean, saying like Bronko, look at him. He's just ripping through lines. It takes 5 guys to bring this guy. Look at him. Just get a direct snap to Bronko and let him smash through. Bam.
Oh, wow.
He's just a mauler. That's all that's their offense. And the crazy thing is that he was equally as good as a blocker. He was probably better as a blocker. They would give it to a little fast guy and let him maul people, knock him down, and then the quick back. Yeah, there's the Giants. So that's the Giants aerial assault.
Yeah.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? They could run a little bit too, but there it is right there.
Jeez.
Yeah, but you can see these guys are athletes, man. A lot of times, there's an impression that these guys from the 30s are a bunch of wimps, like they're a bunch of skinny little runts.
Yeah,
but these guys are tough, man. They're tough.
Oh, and the pads they wore were much less protective,
if any.
Yeah, when they were taking hits, they were taking.
Yeah,
hits.
One of the things I can't wait to bring in Tom Urich is because one of the interviews he's got is with the Lions trainer, and he actually makes a very solid case that that the leather helmets of back in the day were better for players' safety than the current helmets of today.
Wow, really?
And I'm telling you, I actually wrote about it in my 3rd book, and it's just like you just can't I'll give you just a little brief summary. The concept is this is actually what the guy says in the video. We'll listen to his exact words, when we bring Tom in here. But the Lions trainers, and they say, well, what's the difference between the game today and the game back then? And he says, well, the equipment the equipment on the players is different, of course. And he says, but I don't mean it the same way you mean it. He's like, I think, you look at it as like, oh, we were inferior because of our leather helmets. And it's like, but actually, I think it was better for players back then, because think about it. If you're playing a football, which is a collision sport, and you have what's better to get hit by? What's better to get hit by? A soft shell, a leather helmet with like sort of a hard leather shell with a soft padding in the middle of it, or a plastic helmet, a solid plastic helmet with a steel face mask. Yeah. What's better for the opposing player to get hit by?
Right.
You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Like, you're wearing like a torpedo on your head. You're wearing like a knight suit of armor basically with that helmet. And so what it also does for the player that's wearing the helmet is that it gives them a false sense of security that they can just dive into a pile because their face isn't going to get mangled.
Right.
But so you're leading with your head, you're leading with your face in some cases. But back in the day, if you didn't have a face mask, it prevented you from leading it's your natural governor switch to keep your face from getting mangled.
Yeah.
So you would turn your face when you made the tackle, so you wouldn't have these just raucous smash mouth collisions.
Yeah.
it would be like, more wrapping up to avoid your face getting caved in.
So what do we have now? Unnecessary roughness, 15 yards.
Now they have to legislate everything in the game. They have to say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Back then, they had 27-man rosters, and it was roughneck, man. I mean, they're dragging people down by the necks. So I mean, they're but that's what I'm saying. Like so at the very least, it's a interesting argument. It's an interesting debate to have.
Yeah.
I've actually had the debate with modern day fans, and they get actually kind of pretty upset. They're like, people get mad about it. They're like, well, how dare you think that the past is better than today? And you're like, dude, it's an argument. We're trying to make a conversation here. But at the very least, it is a potential. Like all these concussions in the NFL today. What if the answer to that question is to go back and, go back to the past and wear leather helmets? I mean, what if that, what I mean? Like, what if that was the answer to that question?
That would be beautiful.
I mean, how amazing would that be?
Oh my gosh.
But the evolution of the helmet, just one last little point on it, the evolution of the football helmet, you can actually see it when you're like reading the history of all these different, NFL teams or whatever. You can see it like in 36, 37, you start to see players wearing these small little plastic face mask bars.
Yeah.
Just it was plastic. And they they're no doubt wearing it because maybe they got their nose broken in a game. And so now they're wearing this plastic bar to protect their face. But now when they're wearing this plastic bar, they're breaking other people's face.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now they got to wear a bar to protect their face from the other bar. And as you can see the evolution, it didn't necessarily evolve. I mean, they played without face masks for 30 years. I mean, there's a guy we're going to see in the next video. There's a guy named Bill Hewitt. He didn't wear a helmet at all. He didn't wear it. You'll see him. He's all over the field. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a friggin' Hall of Famer.
That's a man's man.
Yeah, he didn't wear a helmet at all. And that's what I'm saying. Like these guys, a lot of times we look with our modern day eyes.
Yeah.
And when we look at the past, we see like, oh my God, look at that primitive equipment. Right. Look at how primitive that stuff is.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't primitive. Maybe they had it right. Maybe we fixed something that was never broke.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the evolution that the game took with wearing face masks and all this stuff wasn't necessarily the right trajectory. Like it went on, it wasn't an evolution at all. It was just the way that it went. It wasn't necessarily the way that that it should have stayed, I guess. And so
interesting.
It's something to think about. And like I say, when Tom comes in, we'll dive even deeper to that conversation.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So every once in a while my tangents will pay off a little bit. Look it up on a tangent every once in a while. I'll get a little gem of something to think about.
But these they were Iron Man. It was just
this is Iron Man. They're called the Iron Man. That's
rockets.
Their nicknames. Yeah. Like they're not like, oh, he had an Iron Man game. No, like they are the Iron Man.
Yeah.
Come on,
That's the same squad. 11 guys every play
for a game
quarters.
And beat the Packers,
right.
who were the defending NFL champions at that point.
That's crazy.
So that's the team that we're talking about. So anyway, that's why that video was good because it showed. And I hope I narrated well enough for the viewer, for the podcasters.
Sure.
I think that was pretty good. It was my first little sports casting moment. I was kind of digging it.
Play by play by Charles Davis.
Yeah. So the next video we're going to tee up. This is a little bit longer. This is a 6-minute video. Okay. But this is a great little. This comes from 1936. Which is obviously the year after the Lions. I guess spoiler alert. They won their first championship. And so this is after that season. So this is basically the same team. Most of these guys are the same guys. And the reason I want to show this is because they're actually playing the Bears in this 1936 game. The date, and again, this comes from JS Tube 36. The full video, go look at his thing. It's an awesome 26-minute video. But I basically spliced together like a 6-minute. So they're 3 of my favorite, basically a total of 6 minutes clips. And so this game comes from, so that to find it, if you can't, in case we don't embed it right, it's November 26th, 1936, Bears versus Lions. The Lions would end up winning this game 13-7.
All right, Jamie,
I'm going to roll it. Okay,
before you start it, actually, your friend, Mr. Mike Frazier, actually did comment. And he had the same thought that I did from watching that first video. It looked a lot like rugby. The way they were tossing the ball around. And even Mike was like, hashtag rugby. Dude.
Yeah. I think there's a clip on this thing too, where you're going to see a little bit more rugby on this. I think you're going to see another one of those things too. Cause it was a regular thing for them to lateral the ball and pitch it on a play. Like they'd get an interception and they'd try to keep the play going as long as possible. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to roll this.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so they're right there. There's a flag right there. So we see the flag hanging from the banner. You'll see it unfurl there in a second.
Yeah.
Detroit Lions, 1935 world champions. That's a great little flag.
So where are they playing? Where is this game being played at?
This is played at University of Detroit.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And so you're going to see just there's a little bit of action going back and forth. So what the first little couple minutes here, what we're going to focus on, the reason I splice is because you're going to see the way the Bears handled Bronko, or the way the Lions handled Bronko Nagurski. Bronco's got the ball right now. You see how the first guy clips him and then they bring him down right there in the backfield. This is how the Lions handle Bronko. Bronco's going to get the ball again. Here he is right there. Right. Bronco's got the ball. Look at it. Wrap tackle around the ankles. One guy brings him down in the backfield. Beautiful tackle. That's how they handled him. Here it is. Here's a pitch to this guy to go throw. It's quarterback sack. That's the Lions defense. They were tenacious.
Wow.
Yeah, there's that defense on them. So they're punting. Lions are about to get the ball. And this is the next thing I want to show is watch how the Lions offense works. The Lions offense is just like it's totally different than the Bears. It's like a machine. Actually, going to get it here in a second. Here's one pass by the Bears, and this next one is going to be an interception by the Chicago quarterback. So actually, Dutch Clark gets this. There he is right there. Dutch got the interception. So Dutch is the quarterback, and he's in the defense is getting an interception.
So now the Lions have the ball?
Yeah, so now Lions have the ball. And watch the wheeling and like the players spinning around in that inside the team. You don't even have any idea where the ball is going. It's totally different than the Bears. The Bears were an assault offense. These guys are spinning around and going in all these different misdirections. The camera can't even follow who has the ball. Watch.
Lions just punted?
Yeah, they just punted there right there. But you'll see there's another section coming up about that.
Yeah.
But like I say, if you go back and watch, especially go back and watch this video, you're going to see it. They spin around, they move around, and you just never know where the ball's going.
Fumble.
You just never know where the ball's going. This right here. This is coming up. You're going to see as soon as the Lions get the ball back in this video, you're going to see a really nice drive. The Lions are going to drive all the way down the field, and you're going to see. Pay particular attention to the back play.
Yeah.
To the way the backs spin around. The way the backs spin around, you're going to see guys coming from all over the different directions. Really, the two guys to really pay attention to are number 1 and number 7. There's 7 right there. Dutch Clark getting about a 5-yard gain.
I got to tell you, the ref looks like he's ready to go play a round of golf.
Yeah,
I got to say.
Yeah, I love that you get refs. White. So check this out, right? So you see all these spinners and stuff. You don't even know where the ball's going. So they were a total misdirection team. They were all about coaching. They were all about discipline and knowing where to run. So you don't like it's just like you can see it. You see all the different spinners and stuff. I mean, you can't even follow it. You know what I mean? I wanted to slow this video down so you could see it, but they don't. You can see it right there. It's a little off tackle. But it's like, but it's all they do is like it's misdirection and like they run it to perfection. And when it really clicks, when a hole opens up, they get massive gains.
Right.
Massive gains.
Like that one right there.
Yeah, there's a little pass play there. Yeah, it was a horrible pass. So that it was a wounded duck, big time. But this is a nice little sweep right there.
I like the old stadiums that just have 2 pieces of rope keeping the crowd
the spectators
back.
back.
You see Bill Hewitt at that left end's got the no helmet on. That's him on the left end. Yep.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah,
there he is.
No helmet. No, you don't never wear a helmet. Yeah.
It's hard.
So helmet, schmelmet. I don't need it.
So you can see it like there. It's just all these spinners. Like he's like
a big dude.
Yeah.
So there's like basically 4 back. There's 3 backs in the backfield and 1 wing back. He's like lined up to the far right. And so and every play that wing comes running across, that's what creates the confusion. Is the wing is called a single wing offense. And so the wing back comes to, swing whatever side he starts out on, he always runs to the left. And then sometimes they give it to him and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they'll just dive it up the middle or go to the other direction. There's so many possibilities with this offense. It's like I almost wish I could see this today.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you're watching this, you almost need to slow it down with like a super slow speed to see who's got it and where it's going, because it's almost like the Bears have to just tackle every player. And then that really is what it comes down to. But you can see when the hole opens up, it's a massive gain every time. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so I guess the way I was trying to show in these videos, there's one more great drive. And the next little section coming up is great because the players are actually coming towards the camera. So we might have a much better view of what it looks like.
Where is this taking place?
Okay, University of Detroit.
Okay, this is UD.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so like I say, you notice from that first Bears video, the Bears offense, they had their own single wing style too. They would do a little misdirection, but the Bears was power. I mean, that was the Bears mentality, was power. And the Lions were this, incredibly disciplined, this machine with all, misdirection and change of pace. And you can see when they come up to the line, they come up quick. They come right into formation. There's Dutch right there with about an 8-yard gain.
Back then, there were no audibles there were no signals to your receivers. They would just get up to the line and run.
Well, they knew their plays. They were well coached, well disciplined. They knew what they were doing. You can see it, like especially like these next few plays. Take a close eyes at these. watch the different stuff that happens. The line, like you're gonna see Dutch here do like a fake, and then he's gonna lateral it to the guy in front. There he goes, right there. See?
Wow.
That's Ernie Cadell right there. He got tackled, but he's going to do another one here in a second. Watch this next one. This next one goes for a big
big these
game.
Guys are, man. Oh my God.
This next one goes for a big game. Look at this next one.
Yeah, a little shovel pass.
Oh no, this is the pass. I'm sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, he goes for the pass. See how close that footage is, though? It's right. The camera's right on it.
Yeah.
They're in the snow.
It looks cold.
Here it is. Right. This is a great little shot. This is a great shot.
Yeah, spin.
See how he spins into the line? That's what they did all the way up the field. They would spin and like either hand it off during the spin or keep the ball run up the middle. Here's the sweep I was talking about. This is a great sweep. There's Ernie Cadell right there. Touchdown.
Yep.
Right in the snow. Yep. See that? It's but that's that sweep. They ran that so they could either. So the Bears had no idea. Here's another. This is a dive up the middle. You can see right there. Bam. Pines it in. I think that was Ace Katowski that ran.
Hey, the ref came in.
Was it ref?
Yeah, it was a ref came in.
The ref came in. I fell on top of him. So, anyways, I just wanted to show like the line. It's like when you're watching it, you know what I mean? Like it's so crazy. You can't even really see what's going on.
Yeah.
And even if you're watching the screen, like anybody that actually clicks on the video and watches the full 26 minutes, it's crazy because you can't, even when you're watching the video, it's almost hard to follow what they're doing. The ball's just, like you see guys crossing, spinning, doing all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, you see a guy out of nowhere running down the field on the left side of the field, you know, like that was their style, was misdirection and being incredibly well coached. Whereas again, the Bears were like this, like, here's the ball, here's Bronko, you know, and try to bring him down. That was their, I mean, they did some passing and they did a little misdirection, but it was, you know, the Bear, like, that's why at one point I said Bronko Nagurski was kind of like the Shaquille O'Neal of the NFL at the time, because like Shaquille was like, once you got him the ball, he was dunking on you. Like he wasn't going to really pass or anything. He's got the ball. He's going to body you, and then turn around and jam it. And if you tried to block it, he's probably going to break your arm. You know, like that was Shaquille O'Neal was such a dominant, overpowering center. You know what I mean? Like that's, you know, there was no really, you know, he didn't really do any kind of like razzle dazzle, you know. He's just like, I got the ball, there's the hoop, if you put your arm in front of it, your arm and the ball are going in the hoop, you know. That's like how Bronko was. And so, you know, so that's what I mean. So like, you know, Bronko was just such, I mean, you know, hit, but the other thing that's interesting is Dutch Clark, who was number 7 on that video, who got a ton of those carries. He got that interception in the video. Dutch Clark, even though he wasn't as big as Bronko, he was his equal as far as being a superstar on the field. Right. Like he could, you know, interception, you know, constant interceptions, you know, just a stellar defender. He could actually, I mean, he could, you know, make dive tackles on Bronko and stuff like this. He was just an incredibly smart player. And there he is right there in that the American football player photo. And so, so Dutch, even though so the Lions catered to the superstar that they had, which was speed, you know, being elusive, being smart, you know, playing intelligent football. That's the style that they had. And so, so I just, you know, I wanted to really use this episode to kind of, to bring that out, to show, you know, we talked about like the genius of Potsy Clark, but I wanted to kind of talk about like what the Lions were, you know, like who they were. Yeah. And so, you know, kind of tee up Tom for the next show.
Are there other individual players? Because we talk about Dutch a lot. Any other interesting characters?
Well, the next one that I really wanted to talk about was Glenn Presnell.
Yeah.
So Glenn, are
we going to give Glenn a whole episode?
Well, eventually, sure we will. But right now, it's worth just kind of, you know, diving in a little bit. You know, talking about Glenn Presnell. So like it's actually interesting, you know, to talk about Glenn Presnell in the sort of in like the dynamic between him and Dutch, because it's and it's actually how I wrote it into the screenplay, was, you know, that's really the character arc of the entire Detroit Lions, you know, episodes of the movie, is this is like this sort of dual nature, you know, like because they're both players were like, Dutch was the elite superstar. Yeah. Okay. Glenn Presnell, he wasn't as good. He was just he wasn't a superstar, right? But he was a star. Okay. And I mean, he was a star, and he lived basically in Dutch Clark's shadow. So these two guys were completely opposite. That's why I think it was such a great character arc for the screenplay, because most football movies, you know, in some way or form have something to do with the quarterback of the team. Right. Sure. Because he's the star of the team. The quarterback's always the guy. Often. So there was always one quarterback. Well, in this case, this is a story of two. This is two quarterbacks. And because they both played extensively. I mean, they both were, because Potsy, they all played both ways, but sometimes Glenn Presnell would be a lot of times they actually start Glenn Presnell, and then Dutch and Potsy would get a chance to evaluate what the other team was doing, and then when they bring Dutch in, now all of a sudden Dutch is like field general, exploiting all the
they don't have
weaknesses.
those the iPads with the instant replay and
no
8 different views and checking it out.
Paper.
Well, so they need to be there watching it
exactly, and so
from the sideline.
That's kind of what it was. So they knew that Glenn Presnell would get them off to a great start, and then when they brought in Dutch, then it would be game changer.
Right.
And then they would still use Glenn Presnell. They would still get him in the field, as a halfback or as a because you could have some substitutions. They didn't have to play Iron Man every game, but there was limited substitutions. Yeah. But anyway, so it's interesting to talk about really talk about the dynamics of this team. Is the first thing to even begin talking about to understand it is the differences between these two guys is Dutch Clark and Glenn Presnell. So number one, you got Dutch as a superstar, and Glenn Presnell is the star. Just an equally awesome player.
So Kobe and Shaq.
Yes. I suppose that's a fair analogy. Sure. But a little bit different. It is a little bit, I guess, like that because Kobe was kind of in Shaq's shadow a little bit. But I could see. Yeah, that's a good analogy, Matt. I like that. Yeah. So like a Kobe and Shaq. But so the differences between these two players, as far as is the thing, is that Dutch was like a reluctant superstar. Like he just liked to play football. He didn't necessarily like the adulation that came with it. He didn't like being the marketing guy where they marketed him as the Ty Cobb of football and all this. And so he was just his interest in football was just playing the game. Like he just loved the game. And so, and then whereas Presnell, living in the shadow of Dutch was something like that. There was an interview with him a few years ago. It was like not a few years. It was like 9 years ago because he was still alive. He was at one point he was the oldest living NFL player. He was like 90 something, and I forgot who exactly the interviewer was, but it was for the Free Press, and it was an interview. You can Google it. It's an interview with the oldest living player, Glenn Presnell, and even in there he was like talking about Dutch Clark in there. He didn't say like, oh, Dutch got all the attention and I didn't get it. He didn't say it like that, but you could see that he was like, I was better at kicking field goals. I was better at passing. I was better at, he was comparing himself to Dutch, 80 years later or whatever. He was still talking about how, I could do this and Dutch couldn't even do that. He could kick an extra point, but I could drill a 54-yard field goal, which is what he did. He set the all-time NFL record that lasted until 1960. So anyways, so like I say, so you have these two guys that are, one guy is no matter what he wants, he's going to be he's in the limelight, and then the other guy basically wants to be in the limelight. He wants the attention that he's due. And then in a little background into the development of that relationship is that, as we mentioned, in 1933, which was the Spartans' last year in Portsmouth, Dutch Clark wasn't with the team. He got a job coach. He retired and he took a coaching job in Colorado. And so while Dutch was gone, Glenn Presnell became the guy on the team. And Glenn Presnell led the league in scoring. The team finished in second place without Dutch, but still Glenn Presnell was the man. And in 1933, the team was basically about to fracture and break up because they weren't getting paid in Portsmouth. And it was like, Presnell was one of these guys that, with alongside Potsy Clark, that was like, nah, fellas, we're going to stick it out with Potsy, we're going to finish this season. We're going to win this, we're playing for this is where the Spartans, we're not breaking up. We're going to play this game even without money, he was with Potsy, the glue that kept his team together. And so when the team moved to Detroit in 1934, the only reason Dutch came back, well, I mean, not the only reason, because he loved playing football, of course, but it was because the Lions, paid him a ton of money to come out of retirement. They made him, if he wasn't the highest paid player in the NFL at that point, he was one of the highest paid. And so they in essence, they lured Dutch out of retirement with money. And so you can kind of imagine, and this is a little bit of this is where we start to get in a little speculation. Yeah. But if you were somebody that was like living in Dutch Clark's shadow for 3 years, okay, and then now all of a sudden you become the man, you're the leader of the team, you kept the team together, you were part of and he actually was, Glenn Presnell was one of the guys that picked the colors for the Lions uniforms. Like that's how interwoven with this franchise he is. Like he was literally like in George Richard's office and picked, was one of the guys that picked these, jersey colors. Wow. And so, that's how interwoven he is. And then Dutch comes back and all of a sudden, oh, Dutch is back. Oh my God, we're Dutch is back, and all this, everything changes. Now Dutch is back. Glenn Presnell, thank God. All we had was Glenn Presnell. You know,
all right, Glenn,
you can imagine.
Get us some coffee.
Yeah, hey Glenn, you can
go down a Starbucks run, Glenn.
So you can see that. You know what I mean? Like, so
Tim Hortons.
Yeah. So the speculation, like it is a little bit of speculation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can imagine how a guy that that was like, where's the credit that I should get, that I'm deserved in this situation or whatever, and so that's the situation. So it became a recurring theme. Dutch Clark retires at the end of 1932. Dutch Clark retires at the end of 1934. Dutch Clark retires at the end of 1935.
Hey, Dutch, how about you make up your mind?
Well, he retired, and then they gave him a ton of money and becomes back, and so you can see, Glenn Presnell's like, I'm not retiring.
I got another analogy. I got another analogy for him.
What do you got?
He's like the Brett Favre of the 19.
Yeah, you can see that. Sure.
Brett Favre.
Yeah, so you get the idea. Like, this is the dynamic between these guys, is that you've got, there's history between them, and it's this close knit group of guys, and there's, just like any other close knit group, there's there's things that happen between them and stuff. So again, I've never read anything that said that he was ever, like didn't like Dutch or anything like this. I never saw anything like that. But you can imagine, because there's numerous cases in Presnell's life that he was slighted by during his career. Like in college, there was a situation where, like, he was basically he won an All-American, but like the votes didn't get counted right or something, and so he technically was an All-American, but he just wasn't listed anywhere as an All-American. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't actually get mentioned anywhere as an All-American. So he was like in college. So back in the day, like, being an All-American was like everything. If you're an All-American, that was like, you're like a hall. That's the biggest thing you can get. So he was like kind of technically an All-American, but not exactly. Like that. So he got kind of slighted in college, and then his first pro is like basically a semi-pro team, which is in Ironton. Which is over. It's sort of in near Portsmouth.
I like that name,
Ironton. Yeah. And so he's the quarterback for the Ironton Tanks, which is like this which is this like legendary. Like in their day, they were a semi-pro team. They weren't even like fully pro.
I want that T-shirt.
Yeah, they were never. Oh, the Iron. Yeah, that's a great team name. But they But anyways, they weren't even part of the NFL, and they played. I think it was the New York Giants because the Ironton Tanks played several different NFL teams. And I think I got to take another look in the book, but I think it was the New York Giants that the Ironton Tanks beat, and Glenn Presnell was the quarterback of that team. And that's what really caught Potsy Clark's attention. And they brought him from Ironton to Portsmouth.
Oh, their jersey.
And so I'm just saying, like, there's like situations where he's always like, why is he on a semi-pro team and not in the NFL? Right. Why didn't he get a job? Like, why did no other NFL team called him after these? He beats the Giants. There was another game where he hung with his team hung with the Bears, and he's still not getting an NFL job. And it's like,
speaking of attention, Charles, Charlotte actually commented for you, and she actually sent you a message. She said,
that's my mom. Yeah,
I love you, Charles.
That's my mom. Yeah,
there's some attention for you.
How you doing, Mom? Thank you. It's always good. She's a number one fan, I think. Yeah, we got a couple of number one fans. We got some good number one fans. We got some. It's tough to say one person or another, but my mom would probably make a pretty good case for that. But anyways, like I say, so you got these two guys. That's the dynamic. Is you got it's where it's Glenn Presnell. You could imagine that there's a guy that would feel somewhat unappreciated for how good he was, and he was a great player. And that's why the sort of the discussion of who these players were and who the team was sort of begins with that. So
yeah, I just there's the Ironton Tanks jersey.
Wow,
look at that thing,
dude. That is so sweet.
That's gonna be up on Wearing Funny.
That's awesome.
Soon.
Yeah, in case you can't see it, if you're on the podcast, it's a red jersey with a tan T in the middle.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's got the little tan strips.
And their other one just says Tanks.
Yeah, that is so. That's such a great name, the Tanks. Like, where's how come nobody uses that nickname?
Oh my God, yeah,
that's a great.
Everybody's fighting for the Redskins or the Indians.
Yeah,
and
Tanks. That's sweet.
Like dump the racial things and give me the Tanks.
Why not fish back into NFL history a little bit and bring back some of these old
kind of
team
fierce,
names,
man.
No, there's another team that's cool called the Steamrollers, which is like a cool name,
That's called the Steelers now.
Yeah.
So
or the Yellow Jackets, which is kind of a cool name. The Yellow Jackets, stuff like that. Those are old NFL teams. That's what I'm saying. Like, why not bring some of those names back? Those are kind of cool.
So we were talking about the Lions coming from Ohio, and starting out as the Spartans, Portsmouth Spartans.
Yeah.
And And I was like speculating, well, Michigan State, they're called the Spartans. I'm wondering if it correlated at all. And I actually,
that's a question that's been plaguing you for several episodes. Do you have some kind of resolution?
I looked it up.
Okay, good. Of course you did.
Yeah, good. Did you? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
That's why I'm knocking on the door again. So 1925, and Michigan State had changed their name, and it became Michigan State Agricultural College, and something, and their teams were being called the Aggies.
Okay,
so they were calling
because the agricultural college.
Yeah, so they're calling the teams the Aggies, and they didn't like it, and it was a year or two after that, and they wanted to kind of get away from that image and just be more, and so they did a contest to pick the name, and the name that won was Michigan Staters. Huh. And so that was the name they were going with.
That one?
Yeah.
Michigan, all they did was add an ERS to the
Staters. So they're the Michigan Staters. Hey. But the reporter at the Lansing Journal didn't like it.
Well, good.
And he said it was.
Hold on a second. Are we sure we want to let the fans decide on this?
It reminds me of a circus.
It was too long.
Are we sure we want to let the fans make this decision? Why don't we just step in and sway the vote a little bit?
He wanted something more heroic. And so he went through, and it was still a fan suggestion, but they didn't make note of whose suggestion it was, and they went with the Spartans.
Oh, okay.
So
great.
The reporter.
What was the year that?
1925.
Okay, so that's
it
before
was prior
Portsmouth.
to
yep.
So it was prior to Portsmouth.
Yep.
So that.
Nice. I like that. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So no, but I was gonna say, I'm glad they didn't just straight up go with the fan vote, because they're like.
Staters.
Yeah, they're
Michigan Staters. Yeah.
No, so
you see all the girls with that tattooed around their foot.
Yeah,
you see a lot of girls with the
just because they ERS
Spartans tattooed on their feet. I think there's like 3 women I teach with that have like Spartan tattoos.
Yeah, like I say, sometimes just it might seem like a good idea, like the fan vote or whatever. But I'm glad somebody stepped in and goes, no, hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes on this one real quick, because the fans, maybe they don't.
Okay,
maybe
cut.
They might be having a joke with us or something, man. Because that's I like the name. So yeah, that was a solid choice. But so now we know that it answers the question that has been vexing you for several weeks now.
Got off my.
And I wasn't going to look into it.
I did a little research.
I spent 10 years writing these, working on it. Jamie,
that was yours.
They're like, no, it's only 5 more minutes to go. Look at us. I'm like, no, that's on totally on you.
You've done enough research, Charles. You don't need to do anymore. Let Jamie do his own.
I did.
Turn this over to Jamie. Put this in his very capable hands.
That is. I got it.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to thank everybody for hanging out with us again. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, leave a comment wherever you're listening, either YouTube or Facebook or whatever podcast downloading site you're
we're
connected
everywhere,
with us.
So you can listen to us or watch us anywhere.
So thank you, Charles. Thanks for all the amazing stories.
Yeah, I love
being
here, man. This is fun. I look forward to it. I actually have it on my schedule now. It's literally scheduled. There's not even
perfect.
It's like going to church, man.
Matt, thanks for pushing our buttons all the time and getting us all the help from the booth back there, Matt.
Yeah, Matt runs a tight ship.
It's a pleasure, fellas. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do it again next week. It's Detroit City of Champions, the podcast.